education was as a Wall Street executive. In this career, I learned what it means to make difficult decisions, how to lead versus how to manage, and how to have impact in a large organization. As a consultant, you learn how to frame option for the consideration of your clients. This is an important skill, but what you don't learn is that there is a big difference between pulling the trigger and advising on pulling the trigger. Being in the trenches is not the same as being an armchair general. Yogi Berra once said, "When you see a fork in the road, take it." It's more important to make a decision, no matter what that decision is, than leaving everyone with the uncertainty of no decision. When decisions make their way up the senior rungs of an organization, by definition, they're not easy decisions, or they would have already been made rather than getting escalated. It is easier either not to make or postpone a hard decision, but that would be breaching one's responsibility as a manager. In running a business, making a mistake is unfortunate, but not making a decision is unforgivable. I also learned that there are important differences between being a manager and being a leader. You realize that more in larger organizations than in smaller organizations, because the difference is that much more glaring. At its essence, managers are concerned about doing things right. Leaders are concerned about doing the right things. Not all managers are leaders, and not all leaders are managers. To run an organization, you need both, but it's often rare to find both qualities in the same individual. The challenge often is that people think that a high position in an organizational chart confers leadership, whereas all it confers is authority. Leadership requires followership and has to be earned. It's hard work. Navigating a large organization is different than navigating a small one. The value proposition of being part of a large organization is the tremendous resources you have at your disposal to have impact. But those advantages of scale and scope create value only to the extent that they're not swamped by complexity. Success in large organizations is all about taming that complexity. Lou Gerstner, the legendary CEO of IBM, perhaps described it best. He said, "It isn't a question of whether elephants can prevail over ants. It's a question of whether a particular elephant can dance. If it can, the ants must leave the dance floor." To succeed in a large organization, you need to know when to sweat the details and when to zoom out and focus on the big picture. You need to know what you need to do yourself and what you must delegate to others. And finally, you have to have the self-confidence to recognize that it's sometimes necessary to lose a battle in order to win the war. So what are my key takeaways from these career experiences? First, the smartest people in the room do not always turn out to be the most successful. My experience is that success has far less to do with intelligence than it does with judgment. IQ is not at all synonymous with judgment. All people with good judgment have intelligence, but not all intelligent people have good judgment. Very smart people can be tone deaf and make poor decisions. Their ego takes over, or they become complacent. In fact, one of the ironies of life is that good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes, which takes me to my second takeaway. Don't get too worked up about making mistakes. Let's be clear, you will make mistakes in your career. In fact, you are likely to make plenty of mistakes. If you find you don't, then it means one of two things. Either you are an alien from the planet Vulcan, sent to observe the rest of us, or you're so risk-averse with your career that it's very dull indeed. The difference between success and failure is not whether or not you make mistakes. but what thought processes and actions led you there. No one can predict the world, but we can all think about the uncertainties and plan for contingencies. Third, don't be impatient with your career. Allow life to play itself out. It's not easy. It's much easier to be impatient. Sometime in your career, for example, you may have to take a step down before taking a bigger step up. That is difficult to swallow for most people, but I have done it a few times in my career, including starting out all over again as a consulting associate after achieving some recognition as a physicist. Equally important, sometimes not getting what you want is a wonderful stroke of luck. But of course, you won't realize it at the time. Quite the contrary. At the time it happens, the disappointment can appear like a real setback. That too has happened to me. Finally, remember that people forget how fast you did a job, but remember how well you did a job. Fourth, don't get preoccupied with success. Success is an outcome, not a goal. David Thoreau once said, "Success comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it." Focus instead on doing your current job as well as you possibly can. And remember, each person has a different definition of success. Don't let others impose their definition of success on you. Only you can decide what it means to you to be successful. Last, but arguably most important, avoid getting so consumed with your careers that you forget about either family or service to the community. A solitary life is not a life well lived. Striking the right work-life balance is difficult and gets progressively more so with seniority because we live in a society that imposes enormous demands on careers. But it is ultimately up to you to find the right balance. I should know because I struggle with it. Similarly, there is no definition of an impactful life that does not include giving back to the community. In fact, it is irresponsible not to do so. You will be surprised at how much personal satisfaction you will get from giving back. Let me conclude with one final thought. One of my favorite words is the Japanese word for optimism, ra kanteki. Its literal translation is having enough challenges to give your life meaning. In that approach to life, you accept problems as challenges to be overcome, not ignored or denied. Through overcoming challenges, you grow and improve and become a more impactful individual. Adopt that philosophy, embrace change, reinvent yourself, and you will have the key to success. Thank you.